Magnolia City is located in the Chi'er province in the south of the Saran Empire, the four major continental empires. As the most famous province in the southern part of the Salem Empire, Chi'er province is quite famous even among all the provinces of the Salem Empire, and Magnolia City, located at the southernmost tip of Chi'er province, is like a bridgehead, welcoming merchants and tourists from all over the empire. At this moment, it was early morning, and the warm sunshine was like velvet falling from the sky, bringing warmth to everyone. On the street near the north gate of Magnolia City, groups of pedestrians were lining up, preparing to leave the city. These travelers are either local residents of Magnolia City, businessmen from all over the empire who rested in Magnolia City last night and are preparing to leave this morning. There are also some adventurers, or tourists who come to Chi'er province to visit. They are of all kinds. In the middle of the crowd, a young man carrying a black heavy sword on his back and wearing a blue-gray linen robe was slowly walking towards the north gate with the flow of people. I thought that Magnolia City, as the only place to pass through the Chi'er province in the south of the Salem Empire, should have the existence of blood abyss spirits. Unexpectedly, there is still no news about the blood abyss spirits among the crowd. The young man frowned. But he was thinking about it in his heart. This person was Jason, who left the territory of chaos and came to the Salem Empire to look for the blood abyss. After leaving the territory of chaos, Jason kept on avoiding some human-inhabited cities along the way until he arrived in Salem. The Empire just entered the city. Originally, in Jason's imagination, this blood abyss spirit was very famous in the previous life. Although it was rare, it was not uncommon in the world. As the origin of the blood abyss spirit, the Salem Empire was always available in some elixir material stores. He could find it if he searched for it, but what Jason didn't expect was that after he traveled through several cities, all the owners of elixir material stores had never even heard of the blood abyss essence, let alone what it was. Found the blood abyss essence. If Jason hadn't described the blood abyss spirit so vividly and even mentioned some of its characteristics, the owners of these elixir material stores would probably think that Jason came over deliberately to talk about a material to cause trouble. This left Jason quite speechless. Jason knew that there was only one possibility for this situation to occur, and that was that in this era, the efficacy of the blood abyss essence had not yet been discovered. This led to the fact that everyone knew nothing about it. Otherwise, even in this era, the blood abyss essence is not called that. As long as Jason describes it, someone should hear about it. Fortunately, in his previous life, although Jason didn't know when the blood abyss essence was discovered, he did know that the origin of the blood abyss essence was probably in the south of the Salem Empire. For more than a month, Jason traveled to cities in the southern part of the Salem Empire every day and asked some elixir material shop owners for news about the blood abyss. However, to Jason's disappointment, more than 1 month have passed, and Jason has traveled to the 2 southern provinces of the Salem Empire and more than 10 cities, but he has never found any news about the blood abyss spirit. This Chi'er province is the northernmost city in the southern part of the Salem Empire. If you go further north, you will enter the central part of the Salem Empire. I clearly remember that this blood abyss spirit was born in the southern part of the Salem Empire. How could this happen? There's no news at all. Jason was confused and slightly anxious at the same time. The places Jason traveled to were not random, but were heading all the way to the northwest countries. The day before yesterday, Jason had just arrived at Magnolia City, the southernmost city in Chi'er province, but he still didn't get the slightest news about the blood abyss essence. Now Jason's hope has been completely placed on the Chi'er province. If there is still no news in the Chi'er province, Jason will have no choice. Now I have just entered the Chi'er province. I hope to get news about the blood abyss spirit in the remaining cities along the way. Jason in the crowd thought helplessly. This is his only chance. Hope. At this moment, not far from Magnolia City, there suddenly came the sound of horse hooves, heading in the direction of the North City Gate. Jason looked around. In the distance, a convoy of more than a dozen large vehicles was driving towards the North City Gate. At the head of it were more than a dozen knights wearing armor with shining eyes, shouting to get out of the way. It was early in the morning, and there were many pedestrians on the street. Many people were leaving the city. Fortunately, the speed of this convoy was not very fast. Pedestrians only had to get out of the way, and it did not cause much commotion. "Hurry" is the motorcade of the Mori family. "Everyone at the city gate, please get out of my way," the motorcade gradually approached. When a team leader who was maintaining order at the city gate saw the badge on the motorcade, he jumped suddenly. He stood up with excitement on his face, and then started yelling at the people who were queuing up at the city gate. Jason frowned, but didn't say anything. When people were dispersed at the city gate like this, it was really too much. It's too ordinary. It can be found in various places in Jialu. Sometimes, in order to welcome some important people, the city gates will even be temporarily blocked. Jason thought in his heart while retreating to the rear. Although the opponent's convoy it's not small, but passing through the city gate is very short, and giving way won't waste much time. Quickly, get out of the way. But just as Jason retreated, one by one the city soldiers rushed forward. "Come forward and push the pedestrians on the roadside." An old man next to Jason fell to the ground because he was retreating too slowly and was surrounded by a city guard. The old man didn't know what he was doing. He was carrying a wooden box on his back. Because of such a fall, the lid of the wooden box suddenly opened. Inside were some red drunken fruits used for making wine. The fruit rolled to the ground, and many drunken fruits even fell to the middle of the road. "Damn it, you old guy, you're looking for death." When the city guard saw this, he was furious. With his right hand, he aimed at the old man and slapped him. When all the pedestrians around saw this situation, there was a trace of anger on their faces, but no one dared to say anything. There were a few big men who looked like adventurers, and they looked like they wanted to rush forward. After hesitating, they still unable to step forward, he could only watch helplessly as the palm was about to fall on the old man's face. In this flash of lightning, a phantom flew out from the side like lightning. With a sound of, the hand of the city guard was immediately stopped by the phantom. Jason stood quietly in front of the old man, looking coldly at the city guards who took action. Stop! At the same time, not far away, a slightly childish voice sounded in everyone's ears. Everyone followed the sound and saw that the motorcade had arrived at the city gate. One of the carriages, the most luxurious among the many carriages, opened with a creak. Then, a young man wearing silver-white spirit armor emerged from there. The carriage suddenly appeared in front of everyone. "Ah, it's Master Loken," someone in the crowd exclaimed, with a hint of surprise in his voice. "Old man, are you okay?" The young man came up behind Jason and hurriedly helped the old man up. After seeing that the old man seemed fine, the young man looked at the city guard who took action with an angry face, and said angrily, "Which team are you from? You know how to respect the old and love the young." Under the anger of the young man shouted. The city guards were already pale with fright, their whole bodies were trembling slightly, and they were speechless. At this moment, the city guard chief also hurried over and said with a smile, "Where is young Master Luoquan? This matter is the fault of my subordinates. I asked him to apologize to this old man." This city guard, the guard commander, was also quite depressed and said to himself, "It wasn't because I wanted to make way for you. I didn't expect that this time the Mori family sent out this young Master Luoquan. I have long heard that this young Master Luoquan is kind-hearted. It's great, but it's a little too good in his heart." The city guard officer didn't dare to show any complaint on his face. "Old man, I'm sorry, it was my fault just now." At the signal of the commander of the city guard who beat the man hurriedly stepped forward and apologized. "Come on, this matter is my fault. I shouldn't have hindered the military master's official duties." The old man waved his hands repeatedly with a trace of fear on his face, not daring to accept it. Seeing this, Jason on the side couldn't help but shook his head secretly. The young man's intention was good, but who knows if this old man often goes in and out of Magnolia City. If he is resented by these city guards, this young man is not here. Now, will the old man still have a good life in the future? Humph, the young man snorted coldly, and then began to pick up the drunken fruits scattered on the ground. Under the leadership of the young man, more than 10 guards walked out of the convoy and picked up the drunken fruits scattered in the middle of the road. He also picked them up, and after a while, all the drunken fruits were returned to the wooden box behind the old man. The old man kept thanking him repeatedly, but there was a trace of worry in his eyebrows. A common man like him would rather suffer a small loss and lose all his income this time than offend the city guards who are like local snakes. "Young master, it's time for us to set off." At this moment, a brown-haired man about 1.8 meters tall, extremely strong, and with a beard as sharp as a knife came out of the convoy. "Uncle Lai, don't worry, I'll be back soon," the young man said with a smile. "Old man, if these city guards make things difficult for you in the future, you can come to Tianhong City to find me. I am Loken of the Mori family in Tianhong City," the young man said to the old man, deliberately letting the content of his words be revealed to those around him. All the city guards heard it, and then walked towards the convoy. Suddenly, the young man turned around and looked at Jason, with approval in his eyes, and said, "Brother, you are very good, courageous, and caring." In the crowd, Jason couldn't help but smile. At first, he thought that this young man only knew how to do good deeds and didn't know how to clean his butt, but he didn't expect that he was not too naive. With his previous words, at least these city guards would not dare to embarrass the old man in the future. Although these city guards all knew that the young man was most likely saying what he said casually, the fate of irritating the Mori family in nearby Rainbow City was not something that their small city guards could bear, and no one was willing to take it. Use your own wealth and life to make such a joke. Soon, the city gate returned to calm. After the convoy left the North City, Jason and others also left the city one by one. I don't know if it was because they were frightened by Nalakan's identity or for other reasons. Both he and the old man walked out of the city without any trouble. Master Loken is such a good person. After seeing the previous scene, some people who were leaving the city couldn't help but say something. "Yes, I am from Rainbow City." "Who in our Rainbow City doesn't know the name of Master Luo Kuan? It's a pity. I heard about Master Luo Kuan's identity. Oh, such a good person." "It's really," someone sighed again. "I am jealous of talents." A famous elixir master once predicted that Master Loken would not live to be 30 years old. "What a pity, the patriarch of the Mori family is such a young man." There was a sigh from the crowd. Jason was stunned. When Loken walked up to him earlier, he also felt that there seemed to be something wrong with Loken's complexion, but it had nothing to do with him. Jason didn't use his spiritual sense to explore. Now listening to these people's words, does this young man have some terminal illness? By the way, the other young man was not bad before. For the sake of the old man, he actually dared to block the city guard. Those people who looked like adventurers suddenly thought of something and spoke out. They also wanted to take action before, but they were afraid of the status of the other city guards and backed down. Naturally, they dared to do things they did not dare to do. Jason, who came forward, was deeply impressed. Yes, there was another young man who also took action. If it hadn't been for that young man, the old man would have been injured. "Hey, I remember that boy came out of the city with us? Where is he?" Some people couldn't help but look for Jason in the crowd, but after looking around for a few times, they couldn't see Jason at all. At this moment, Jason had left the north gate of Magnolia City and rushed towards the location of Rainbow City. The Salem Empire is extremely vast. The distance between Magnolia City and Rainbow City is also quite far. You need to pass through a dense jungle and mountains in the middle. If you take a carriage, it will take at least 10 days. If you go on foot, it will take at least 10 days. It might take a month to get there. Fortunately, there are many small towns and villages along the way, and there is no shortage of places to stay. However, Jason, who is a talented and bold man, rarely lives in these small towns. Above, we walked all the way forward to stay through the night and rested on the roadside. As for food, there was a lot of dry food in the space ring. If it was too light, we could catch some game in the mountains and forests. It's also comfortable. This time, Jason did not use the wings of lightning to rush. Instead, he walked and practiced, hoping to gain some insights during the practice and directly advance to the 5th level of Sect Spirit Master without having to put his hope aside. Completely focused on the blood abyss essence that has never been found. The night is getting deeper, and the stars in the sky are shining brightly like diamonds dotted on the picture screen. In the mountain forest beside the road, a bonfire is swaying in the night wind, and the branches are burning with the crackling sound. Little sparks drifted away in the wind and then flickered out in the night sky. Under a big old tree, Jason's face was illuminated by the bonfire, sometimes bright and sometimes dark, for some reason. An inexplicable feeling of loneliness lingered in Jason's heart. The figure of the little maid Claire, floating out again. Jason's brows frowned deeply. What the hell, Jason muttered, did I forget some elixir at Claire's place? Or maybe I put some important materials in the family's laboratory, for fear that this little girl would. Is it broken? Why did he suddenly think of her again? Jason's heart was full of doubts. In his previous life, he was obsessed with studying spiritual medicine, and he didn't understand the reason for this feeling. In his imagination, he must have something. Important things about elixir science are in Claire, so I subconsciously thought of her. At this moment, more than 200 meters away from Jason, there was a thick and curved tree that needed to be surrounded by several people. Below, a spiritual beast with a fiery red horn on its head and a shape like a rhinoceros was staring coldly at the figure beside the campfire. Suddenly, ho! An angry roar poured into Jason's ears like a shockwave. At the same time, the 2 meters tall and about 4 to 5 meters long, black and rough skin with strange red patterns, like a rhinoceros-like spiritual beast with a trace of afterimage, and arrived at Jason's side in an instant. The red horn on the top of the monster's head lit up instantly, and strong fire spiritual power rose up in the mountains and forests, hitting Jason directly. Jason turned his head and looked at the ferocious rhino monster with his eyes like knives. This monster has a strong body, a ferocious face, and its blood-red eyes are extremely ferocious. Jason is simply small compared to it, but when Jason looked over at this moment, a look of fear appeared on the face of the rhinoceros monster. Humph! Jason snorted coldly. A flash of dark light flashed like a ghost and suddenly shot out of Jason's hand. Tisk! A fiery red light emerged from the black shadow shot out of Jason's hand. The spiritual light seemed to burst through the air and go away, but in the end, it still failed to form a well. Boom! The head of the rhinoceros monster suddenly exploded in midair, and its body instantly became weak. Following the inertia, it hit the trunk and branches of the thick tree next to it, and then landed heavily on the ground. The huge body hit the ground with a dull sound and rolled up smoke and dust. Then, a large amount of blood spurted out from the exploded head cavity of the rhinoceros monster, staining the dry ground red. 3rd level flaming rhinoceros? Jason looked at the body of the spirit beast and couldn't help but shook his head. You actually provoked me, you were just asking for death. Today's Jason is a 4th level as a senior heavenly spiritual master. Just by relying on the spiritual power in the meridians in his body, Jason, who practices the spiritual god art, can stand up to an average 5th level sect spiritual master. If you add in the spiritual skills of several major spiritual rings, even a 6th level spiritual master, no level of spiritual master may be Jason's opponent. Now this is the 3rd level flaming rhinoceros. Under Jason's black heavy attack, just one blow completely shattered the hardest head of the flaming rhinoceros. It was not difficult at all. But after recalling the previous blow, Jason couldn't help but frown. The biggest difference between the 5th level sect spiritual master and the 4th level celestial spiritual master is that the spiritual power structure in the 5th level sect spiritual master's body is more stable, and the spiritual power is released to form a spiritual light, but it does not collapse. Jason's eyes were as bright as the stars in the night sky, and he murmured, with my inadvertent blow earlier, the spiritual power spurted out, forming a spiritual light. It has obviously reached the peak of the 4th level. Why can't I enter the 5th level? Jason was puzzled, but he noticed another situation. When he attacked earlier, the strange black power in his body felt like it was about to move. After Jason was silent for a moment, an almost crazy idea quietly and uncontrollably emerged from the depths of his heart. If I can incorporate this strange black power into an attack and release it, how powerful would it be? As soon as this almost crazy idea appeared, Jason shivered involuntarily, but he could, no matter how he suppressed it, that thought was still lingering in his heart. No matter what, he couldn't get rid of it, like a demonic barrier under the ineffectiveness of driving him away. Jason unconsciously became obsessed with these days. As he continued, he murmured in his heart, if this can succeed, I'm afraid the destructive power will not be weaker than that of Feng Yan's triple wave, right? Jason couldn't help but think of the time when he was assassinated by an assassin from the Dark Knight organization in the Kingdom of Orlando. A 5th-level sect spiritual master assassin, under the attack of his weird power, instantly turned into pieces of meat all over the ground. At that time, he was only a 3rd-level low-level spiritual master. Under the constant trend of such thoughts, the agitated Jason finally made up his mind and began to continuously run the spiritual god art. With the operation of the spirit god art, the strange black power in Jason's body also began to flow slightly. As early as when Jason advanced to the 4th level of low-level heavenly spirit master, he discovered that this strange black power seemed to have some kind of connection with the spiritual god art. Every time Jason used the spiritual god art, the strange black power in his body would change. Xiaoxi grew very slightly, and at the same time, the spiritual god art seemed to have some control over this strange black power. In such a long period of practice, Jason has mastered a trick to control this strange black power. With Jason's continuous efforts, after a while, a small trace of extremely subtle black strange power and 4th-level advanced spiritual power was extracted by Jason alone, and then placed in a meridian. Jason exhaled slightly, and there were dense beads of sweat on his forehead, but his mind did not dare to relax at all. After a slight pause, Jason began to try to fuse these two disparate powers together. Poison. The moment the two powers came into contact and merged, a thunderous sound erupted from Jason's body. Suddenly, the meridians in his body suddenly exploded, and a series of channels appeared. Crack, looking at this posture, if Jason's physical strength had not reached the peak of the 7th-level emperor, and the toughness of his meridians was also extremely strong, he would have been blown up on the spot. Severe pain continued to stimulate Jason's nerves, but a flash of ecstasy flashed in Jason's eyes. In his perception, the two forces with completely different attributes had only a slight fusion. Although this fusion was extremely slight, it let Jason know that his idea was not unfeasible. In Jason's body, an inexplicable terrifying power continued to rise. In the past, although this black strange power and the 4th-level spiritual power were in the same meridian, they were like water. Like oil, they are two completely different powers, different from Jingwei. However, at this moment, these two powers merged slightly. Feeling the injured meridians in his body, Jason gritted his teeth and ignored the terrifying energy generated by the fusion of the two different powers. He kept running the spiritual god art in his body, oppressing these two powers, thinking it is necessary to completely integrate these two powers. Each of these two forces has only a small strand, but this small strand allowed Jason to fully mobilize every ounce of power in the cells in his body, and then he was able to slowly Crack, crackle, continuous small popping sounds came from Jason's body, and the two forces began to gradually compress. However, it was obvious that while compressing, Jason was also bearing the force of two different forces. Backlash. Boom! At a certain moment, a thunderous roar came out of Jason's body. Jason finally groaned, and a mouthful of blood spurted out. His face turned extremely pale in an instant. The meridians in his body were almost completely shattered by the previous explosion, and many places in his body were broken, all turned into a piece of minced meat. Gritting his teeth, Jason stared stubbornly at the two entangled forces. Waves of severe pain came from everywhere in his body. The terrifying power formed by the fusion of the forces continued to impact the energy in his body. The broken meridians and the excruciating pain made Jason's clothes instantly soaked with cold sweat. However, Jason did not choose to give up. Jason has always relied on the strength of others. When they were in Talon City, Bispham and Saha, and later Wayne, the father of the Chaos Territory, almost helped Jason when they encountered powerful enemies. It's not a big deal. Although his elixir is often the key to determining the outcome of a battle, in Jason's heart, he doesn't like this feeling. In his previous life, he was unable to practice and could only rely on a large number of followers. In this life, he will use his own strength to stand at the pinnacle of this continent. So Jason was practicing crazily all the time. Jason is a persistent person, and sometimes he can even regard this persistence as a kind of paranoia. He is like this when it comes to the study of spiritual medicine, and he is also like this when it comes to the cultivation of spiritual masters. In this state, Jason wanted to see if, with his own abilities, he could create a terrifying power that would make even a strong man like his father look at him. Those two powers, under Jason's tenacious belief, continued to merge. Finally, there was only a slight difference between the two powers before they could be completely integrated together. However, at this critical point, regardless of Jason's no matter how hard they tried, they refused to merge anymore, and as Jason pressed hard unwillingly, the energy in the two forces began to gradually become violent. And that trace of fourth-level spiritual power was about to collapse under the huge pressure. A fifth-level sect spiritual master must have a stable spiritual power structure within his body, and only then can he turn his spiritual power into spiritual light. A fourth-level spiritual power, the structure cannot be considered stable at all. Under such huge pressure, he suddenly faced collapse. No. Jason's face was suddenly startled, and a trace of horror flashed across his eyes. Bang was another muffled thunder explosion, and Jason's whole body was violently shaken. Blood spurted out from his mouth, and the meridians in his body continued to explode. His flesh and blood collapsed, and even his internal organs were almost broken. The two strands of power in Jason's body have reached a limit. They are like two bombs squeezing each other and may explode at any time. Once it explodes, the only result is that Jason will be blown into countless pieces. Not to mention surviving, even the body will be gone. At this moment, between life and death, the spiritual god art in Jason's body started to work crazily. A ball of light burst out from his eyes, and then he flicked with his fingers. Phew! A black stream of light was like a cold star, shooting out from Jason's fingers, cutting through the dark sky, and shooting into the distant sky. Blood spurted out from Jason's mouth, and he fell to the ground and passed out instantly. Immediately afterwards, an uncontrollable and earth-shaking explosion exploded from the distant mountain forest. Boom! Destructive energy spread out from the void. In the entire mountain forest, ripples suddenly appeared in the air at this moment. The powerful energy formed a huge spiritual storm. Wherever it went, all the trees, the rock formations exploded instantly and turned into countless pieces of powder. Wherever the huge shock wave hit, all the existing spiritual beasts turned into a pile of blood and mud. Fortunately, the explosion was far away from the unconscious Jason, but the powerful aftermath of the impact still blew Jason's unconscious body out. More than 10 meters away. At noon, there are no clouds in the sky, and the blue sky is like a mirror, so clear that it can almost reflect people's shadows. In the mountains and forests, on the official road, a motorcade was slowly advancing, bringing up clouds of smoke and dust along the way. Haha, Uncle Lai, the air here is so fresh. It's great to come out. I will come out with you next time. A young man wearing white spirit armor was riding on a tall white horse on both sides of the motorcade. He kept running through the mountains and forests, shouting with a smile on his face. This man was none other than young Master Loken of the Mori family, whom Jason met when he was in Magnolia City. "Master, be careful and don't go too deep into the forest. This official road is open directly from the middle of the forest. From time to time, spiritual beasts will appear and hurt people. You have to pay attention." In front of the motorcade, the bearded man, the scumbag big man, shouted. "Uncle Lai, as long as you are here, there is nothing to worry about." "In the forest," Luo Kuan said with a smile, and casually took the long sword from the horse's belly into his hand. Uncle Lai couldn't help but smile, but suddenly he felt it with concentration, his face changed slightly, and he shouted, "Everyone, be careful, there are extremely strong spiritual power fluctuations left here. It is possible that someone or a spiritual beast had a big battle last night. Everyone, look." At this moment, a guard in the team said with a frightened face. He pointed not far away with his finger, as if he saw something incredible, his fingers trembling slightly. Everyone immediately looked around and saw that the place the guard was pointing to was the depths of the mountain forest. There, a large number of giant trees collapsed. In the distance, there was even more charred blackness. In the middle of the charred black area, it seemed that there is a huge deep pit. Such a large area of charred ground seemed to have been plowed over in turns, and the soil in some places had melted into black solid crystals, giving people an extremely terrifying feeling. Gudong, many people in the crowd swallowed deeply, with inexplicable horror on their faces. "Captain, what kind of person is needed to create such a scene?" A guard couldn't help but asked in a trembling voice. "An imperial spiritual master, at least a 7th-level imperial spiritual master, can create such a terrifying scene by mobilizing the spiritual power of heaven and earth." Uncle Lai, a burly man, had a solemn expression on his face. "Quick, everyone, hurry up and get out of here. Although everything here seems to have passed for a while, they don't want to get into any trouble, so it's better to stay away from here. Uncle Lai, there seems to be someone here." At this moment, Loken's scream came from the distance. "Master, don't move." Uncle Lai, a burly man, changed his expression and said loudly. "The people who appear here are most likely related to this huge pit, and they are not something they can get involved at will." "Ah, it's the young man at the gate of the city." But when Uncle Lai spoke, Luo Kuan's body in the grass turned over. He is covered with wounds, but he still has breath in his mouth. "Sure enough, it's him." The burly man hurried over, and after seeing the figure in the grass and the ashes of the bonfire not far away, his face relaxed. However, he was wary by nature and said, "Master, let's leave this boy alone and leave here as soon as possible." "No." Loken's eyes widened and he said, "How can we ignore death?" "Well, the young man saved the old man at the city gate yesterday, and he is obviously not a bad person at all." Seeing Loken's eyes glaring, the burly man, who knew his young master's character, could only sigh secretly in his heart. He said, "Okay, but it's not suitable to stay here for a long time. It's better for us to leave here quickly." The burly man glanced at Jason and couldn't help but said in his heart, "This young man is unlucky enough. Yesterday he camped here, but he was affected by the battle between two strong men. However, the 7th-level emperor of Chi'er province, there are only a few spiritual masters. Which two old guys came here last night with nothing to do? And even had a fight?" The burly man frowned. He obviously thought that Jason was accidentally affected. Passers-by. A smile suddenly appeared on Luo Kuan's face, and he said excitedly, "I knew Uncle Lai was the best. Come quickly, 2 people will come and carry this kid into my carriage. And this giant sword, really ugly, it's just someone else's thing, so let's bring it to him." Loken saw Jason's heavy-colored épée in the grass again, and ran up to pick it up. "Hey, it's really heavy." When Luo Kuan picked it up, he couldn't help but be shocked by the weight of Jason's heavy sword, but as a 4th-level low-level heavenly spiritist, he wouldn't be unable to pick it up. Fortunately, Jason's épée was not taken by Uncle Lai. Otherwise, with Uncle Lai's maturity, he would probably be curious about the material of Jason's épée as soon as he picked it up. How is it? How is it?" After throwing the heavy sword onto the carriage, Loken hurriedly asked the guard who was checking Jason's injury. "Master, I'm afraid this young man is hopeless. Many parts of his body have been seriously injured. It's a miracle that he can still survive until now. The third-level treatment potion we carry with us is impossible to cure him." Injury. The two guards couldn't help but shake their heads. What? Luoquan's eyes widened. Suddenly, as if he thought of something, he hurriedly took out a bottle of elixir from his body and said anxiously, "Quickly, give him this, maybe it's still useful." "Master." After seeing the elixir in Loken's hand, the guard waved his hand hurriedly. "This spiritual elixir was specially prepared by the master of the house for you by the elixir master. Don't waste it casually." Luoquan glared, stuffed the elixir into the opponent's hand, and said, "What nonsense are you talking about? If you are asked to save people, just do it. I am the young master, or you are the young master." "Oh, the young master is really too kind-hearted. Well, even the entire family doesn't have much of such a magical elixir, and now to save an outsider." The guard sighed in his heart, shook his head, then took the elixir from Loken's hand and gave it to Jason. Took it. Jason woke up again in the midst of a violent jolt, which made the bones in his body fall apart. The pain directly drove away the tiredness swirling in his mind, and then he struggled to slowly open his eyes. Eyes. It hurts, so much pain. The severe pain was like thousands of iron needles, constantly poking all over Jason's body, making him groan softly. There was a large ceiling in front of his eyes. Jason's fingers gently touched the place where his body was leaning. Under his body, there was a blanket made of soft white fluff. His eyes swept around and he immediately understood where he was. This place should be on a carriage, and looking at the decorations and carvings in this carriage, although it is not luxurious, it is quite exquisite. So, he must have been discovered in the grass by a passerby, right? His eyes also swept over his body. Jason found that all the blood stains on his body had been wiped away. The robe on his body was no longer the blue-gray linen robe, but was replaced by a silk robe. Jason exhaled slightly, and after slightly understanding his situation, he began to feel his body. In the body, a large number of meridians have been broken into a mess, and the spiritual power in the body is weakly flowing. Every time it flows, his body is slightly improved. This is, at the same time, Jason also discovered another force in his body. This force continuously repaired the wounds in his body and nourished Jason's vagina. Although the speed was not fast, it also brings great nourishment to the body. Is this the power of spiritual medicine? Jason, who was a 9th-level spiritual medicine master in his previous life, understood the properties of that power carefully. The source of this power. It seems that someone else gave it to me when I was in a coma. I can use a 5th-level high-grade spiritual potion to give it to myself. It seems that this other party has a lot of background. But what puzzles Jason is that since the other party has the ability to possess a 5th-level high-grade spiritual potion, why doesn't he give himself a 5th-level healing potion? Although spiritual potions can also heal injuries, most of the time, it is used to nourish the bodies of some spiritual masters who are extremely weak. When it comes to treating their own injuries, the effectiveness of spiritual potions is far from being comparable to that of 5th-level healing potions, and the preparation difficulty and price of the former are far higher. The latter. Just when Jason was confused, the curtain of the carriage was suddenly opened, and the cut sunlight shone in through the curtain, making Jason's eyes squint, and then a slightly tall figure, a tall, muscular man wearing armor appeared in front of Jason. When he saw Jason staring at him, the big man couldn't help but be startled. "Master, this kid is awake," the big man suddenly faced the car. The outsider yelled, and the sound spread far away. As the big man's words fell, a somewhat familiar voice from Jason, but with a childish and excited voice, came from the outside. "Really? You're awake, great, let me take a look." After a while, a young man wearing silver-white spiritual armor came in from outside the car. After seeing this young man, Jason couldn't help but be startled. This young man was looking at isn't it the young master Luo Kuan of the Mori family who said at the north gate of Magnolia City that he was very good, courageous, and responsible? After seeing Jason's expression, the young man couldn't help laughing. He stood up and said, "How about it? Are you excited and surprised to see me?" Then Luoquan said in an old-fashioned way, "Brother, why did you go out to camp alone? If I hadn't found you seriously injured in the grass in the forest, I'm afraid you might not have the spirit beasts in the forest had eaten him to the point of being eaten to the point of death." Uncle Lai said that there were many spirit beasts in the forest at this time. "Thank you." Jason couldn't help but twitching at the corners of his mouth. After seeing the young man's bright smile, he couldn't help but feel better. In fact, if it hadn't been for Luo Kun's rescue, Jason's injury would have been much worse. He can recover under the operation of the spirit god Ard and his own strong recovery power, but there are still many spiritual beasts in this mountain forest. The powerful spiritual power released by the failed fusion force that Jason released last night voltage can drive away some spiritual beasts in a short period of time, but there might be some blind spiritual beast that accidentally eats Jason. To be honest, Loken still had a life-saving grace for him. "Haha, no need to thank you, but I think brother you rarely travel far, right? You should be more careful when you go out in the future, and don't miss Sudo. I would rather travel less and stop in the last town. It is quite dangerous for a person to sleep in the wilderness alone." Loken continued to say in an old-fashioned way. In fact, as the young master of the Mori family, Loken has never traveled far alone. His uncle Lai told him all this. Of course, at this moment, Loken couldn't help but point out Jason. "Well, I'll pay attention next time." Jason nodded, but he couldn't help but feel a little dumbfounded in his heart. "Okay, since you just woke up, we won't disturb you. You can have a good rest. If you need anything, just call me." Loken also understood that Jason had just woken up and his injuries had not yet recovered. Without disturbing him, he opened the curtain and walked out. As if he thought of something, Loken suddenly turned to Jason and said, "By the way, your sword is in the compartment under the blanket. I picked it up for you." As Lokuan's words fell, the interior of the carriage became dim again. "Hey, it feels so good to save people outside the carriage." Loken rode on the white horse. "I felt extremely happy in my heart." The horse was galloping back and forth on both sides of the convoy, with a sunny smile on my face. This boy's life is really good. He met a young man. Listening to the cheerful laughter coming from Loken, many guards felt a little relieved because they were tired from the journey. But when they saw the captains after looking at Master Loken's slightly sad eyes, the hearts of the guards could not help but sink again. Sighed, "This young man is lucky to have a young master to save him, but who will save the young master's illness? Where can such a good young master ask us to look for him in the future?" Many guards couldn't help but sigh in their hearts, thinking of the young master after suffering from the disease. They could no longer be happy in their hearts. But the patriarch had invited all the elixirs in Tianhong City to find out that the disease was incurable. Why did such an incurable disease appear on the young master? God is really short-sighted. As Loken left, the carriage became quiet. Jason stood up and leaned against the wall of the carriage, with thoughts flashing in his mind. Originally, he planned to inquire about the Blood Abyss spirit in Hongqing that day. If there was no news, he would stay for a day or two at most before heading to the next city. But now, he was seriously injured and had to recover from his injuries first. Besides, since the other party saved him, he owes him a favor. For Jason, who doesn't like to owe favors, this is not a small thing. Thinking of this, Jason couldn't help but reveal a trace of kindness on his face. Smiling bitterly, but soon, when he thought about his experiment last night, Jason couldn't help but get excited again. He was in a coma last night and didn't see the horror caused by the trace of power he created. But when he was unconscious, he could still vaguely feel the earth-shattering spiritual power fluctuations. Yesterday's failure was due to the fact that the fourth-order spiritual power structure in my body was not stable enough. It was suppressed until the end and could not withstand the collision of energy between the two, so it collapsed. Moreover, my physical strength was still slightly insufficient. If these four, the spiritual power structure of the order is stable. If my body is strong enough, this attempt will definitely succeed. Now, it is a pity, Jason murmured to himself, but his eyes became brighter and brighter. Although Jason's body was severely traumatized by the experiment last night, Jason, who felt the power of the fusion of these two powers, was excited that he could create a powerful attack method. Extremely excited. In his past life, this was the first time that he had developed such a powerful attack method based on his own strength. Fifth level, still fifth level, Jason couldn't help but murmured, as long as I advance to the fifth level of sect spiritual master, the stability of the spiritual power structure in my body will be greatly improved, and my physical strength will also become stronger. By that time, I think I should be able to use the fusion technique of last night. The thoughts in his mind were spinning rapidly, and for a long time, Jason let out a long breath. Taking a breath, rubbing his forehead, feeling the pain and weakness in his body, Jason gritted his teeth, sat cross-legged, then took out the black heavy sword from the compartment and placed it above the knees. The perception spread slightly. After feeling that no one was prying near the carriage, Jason shook his right hand and took out a bottle of 6th level healing potion from the space ring. He drank it in one gulp and immediately closed his eyes to practice. No matter what, the most important thing for Jason now is to restore his own strength, especially in such an unfamiliar place. Amidst the squeaking and bumping sound of the carriage, Jason in the carriage continued to use the spiritual god art to repair the damaged meridians and tendons in his body. I don't know if these injuries were caused by the strange black power or some other reason. This time, the strange black power stayed quietly in Jason's meridians after he was seriously injured, and did not take the initiative to treat Jason. Otherwise, with the powerful healing ability of that strange black power, even if Jason was so seriously injured, it would not take long for him to recover. However, even so, with the 5th level body spirit potion and the 6th level with the treatment potion and Jason's terrifying recovery ability, the muscles and meridians in Jason's body continued to squirm and repaired at an extremely fast speed. After Jason enjoyed the bumpy ride on this carriage for a long time, finally before evening, the meridians in Jason's body had been nourished to perfection by him. Although they were still extremely damaged, the operation of spiritual power was no longer hindered. Event. After practicing on this bumpy carriage for a long time, even a madman like Jason felt quite bored. At this moment, the convoy suddenly stopped, and then bursts of noise came from outside the carriage. Coming in, it was obvious that it was getting late, so the team found a good camping spot and set up camp on the spot. Now that the injuries in some of the most serious parts of his body were half healed, Jason felt more confident and rubbed his face. Then the car curtain was opened. It was almost dusk now, but the sky was still bright. What the team found was a large open space with some green grass growing on it, and there were some rotten wood left on the open space, indicating that someone once camped in this place. Hey, this kid really survived, but he still wanted to get off the carriage with such a serious injury. Can he walk? Haha, as soon as Jason opened the curtain, he was spotted by a big man pulling a horse not far away. A loud laugh came from the big man's mouth. The big man's big laugh immediately attracted the attention of many people. Hey, brother, are you hungry? Don't come down, or you may break your body. When we have dinner later, I will have someone bring the meal to you. Loken, who was watching the guards camp in front of the team, also saw Jason's actions. He shouted immediately. However, when he shouted, Jason had already jumped off the carriage. The slight shock made Jason's steps stagger a little, but he still stood firmly. Hey, this kid really stood up, dear. What did you use to hit this kid's body? Can he walk after such a serious injury for a long time? Many guards had a hint of surprise in their eyes. They clearly saw that Jason was seriously injured this morning. Although they heard that Jason had woken up at noon, injuries like Jason's were something that even strong bodyguards like them could hardly talk about. He was going to lie down for 2 days, but he didn't expect this young man to want to get off the carriage so quickly. Humph, what does that young man have to do with is not the effect of the young master's elixir? Someone in the crowd made a slight noise. After hearing this sentence, the faces of the guards next to him changed. Although there was no malice in their eyes when they looked at Jason, they were not as kind as before. EGSN's keen eyesight naturally caught the subtle changes in everyone, but he didn't say anything. When he saw a person setting up a tent next to him, he wanted to go up and help. "Get out of the way, you're injured." "It's so heavy, what are you doing here?" This was a middle-aged man with a beard. He glared at Jason with a pair of eyes and said in a low voice. Jason was stunned. He didn't seem to have offended this middle-aged man. Why does this guy have such a bad attitude? But for such a person, Jason didn't say anything. He just smiled and walked aside. "Con, I am still a child, and you are so cruel to me," the middle-aged man yelled at Jason in a low voice, but it was still heard by a guard next to him. I know I am a child, but I feel unhappy." The middle-aged man's voice was a little painful. "You said this kid is not strong enough to run around. Doesn't he know that it is very dangerous in the mountains and forests, causing the young master to waste an extra bottle of body spirit potion? I'm afraid the young master doesn't have a few bottles in total. If all the body spirit potions are used up, what will the young master do himself?" These physical and spiritual potions were prepared by the master of the spiritual medicine with great difficulty last time. Any bottle is extremely precious. Maybe because of this bottle, the young master will be earlier. Alas, the guard also sighed, "My child didn't mean it. Be careful if you let the young master see you for being cruel. Then he will be angry with you." "The young master is so kind-hearted." Then the big man wanted to say something else, but he suddenly raised his head and whispered, "The young master is here. Stop talking and get to work quickly." The other party thought that his voice was very small, but he was completely ignored by Jason, who was not far away. After hearing this, Jason couldn't help but touch his nose and thought to himself, "It seems that the favor I owe is a bit big this time, brother. Can you get off the carriage so soon?" "You are in good health." Not far away, Loken, who was wearing silver-white spiritual armor, walked over with a smile on his face. Jason smiled and found an excuse and said, "I must be tough. By the way, our team is going to Tianhong City. I see that you are going the same way, so you can just rest in my carriage and recuperate. When we get to Tianhong City, I will find an elixir for you to help you carefully. Look at your injuries." The silver-armored boy smiled again. Luoquan was very excited, and thought to himself, the lean young man in front of him obviously doesn't have much experience, and there are still injuries on his body. If he is allowed to, if you go out alone, you might lose your life, so you just happen to take him to Rainbow City with you. Please invite the elixir." Jason couldn't help but smile. Jason knew his injury quite well. "I'm afraid it wouldn't take more than 2 days. Then he can be cured, and how can he get to Tianhong City?" However, Jason's expression fell into the eyes of Luo Kuan, but he thought that Jason was afraid that he could not afford to pay for the elixir. Luo Kuan immediately patted his chest and said, "Don't worry, the matter of hiring the elixir is just a matter of time. It's all about me. There is a Kaching elixir master in my family. Although Master Locke has a bad temper and is very tough, which is difficult for ordinary people to touch, but as long as I say a few good words, he will definitely help you heal him. Hey, don't underestimate Master Locke, he is a 5th-level intermediate elixir master." Regarding Locken's enthusiasm, Jason couldn't laugh or cry, so he could only answer with a smile. "It feels so good to help others." Seeing this lean young man smiling so happily, he must be very grateful to me, Luoquan thought to himself. "Ah, I haven't introduced myself yet. My name is Luo Kuan, and you." Luo Kuan looked at Jason with a smile. "My name is Jace," Jason said. He is not afraid of the reaction of the other party after hearing this. Firstly, the territory of chaos is far away from here, and his deeds in the territory of chaos cannot be spread at all. Secondly, there are many people with the same name and surname in the world, and even if others know about it, they will not be able to tell about it at all. I never thought they were the same person. Jess Luoquin nodded slightly and praised, "What a good name. Brother Jace, you are obviously older than me, so I will call you Brother Jace. When you go to Rainbow City, Brother Jace, you have time. Brother Jess, I'll take you around. I grew up in Rainbow City since I was a child. I know everything there." In fact, Jason, who is only 19 years old, is not that different from this boy. Not big, but Jason naturally has a steady aura about him, which makes him feel a little mature. Looking at the familiar boy in front of him, Jason found that talking to this Loken was really something interesting. When we were at the gate of Magnolia City and what I heard from the guards earlier, this Loken seemed to be suffering from some terminal illness. At this time, Jason also carefully observed the Loken in front of him. It's just that Jason's injury hasn't healed yet, and he can't be polite to use his spiritual sense to check the other person's whole body. With his naked eyes, Jason only felt that there seemed to be something wrong with Loken's complexion, but he couldn't see anything else. What comes out? Let's take a look next time. If possible, I'll cure Loken's disease, Jason thought to himself. That night, Jason ate something casually and then went to bed. But Jason also discovered that this team was quite sophisticated. No one drank during the entire dinner. Even the leader, the big man known as Uncle Lai, had not touched any alcohol. The night passed, and the team was safe and sound. After having breakfast and packing up the tent, we set off again. After a night of practice, Jason's internal injuries had improved to some extent, and most of his strength had been restored. Along the way, Jason behaved extremely low-key. Occasionally, he would talk to these people, but in his words, he acted as if he was his age. Uncle Lai also took the time to talk to Jason. On the surface, it seemed like nothing, but in fact, he was trying to find out in his words. He glanced at Jason. Jason dealt with it easily, and Uncle Lai didn't pay much attention to Jason. After 2 days of traveling, the team had walked out of the mountain forest and entered a valley. In the middle is the famous Luoyan Valley, between Magnolia City and Rainbow City. In the team, Luo Kuan and Jason walked together and talked from time to time. The actions of the two of them were also noticed by the burly and strong men in the team, Uncle Lai, and some of the guards saw this and said, "This boy is really lucky. Not only was he saved by the young master, but we brothers also asked us to protect him." Yes, there are many sharp thieves in Luoyan Valley. If it weren't for this young man, leave alone, we will definitely die. The young master is also very kind-hearted. If it were me, I would be too lazy to care. A few guards walking at the front were talking quietly. "Shut up, don't talk, and be on alert." Uncle Lai, a burly man in the team, suddenly spoke up, and the conversation of the group of guards came to an abrupt end. "Be careful, there are a lot of bandits in Luoyan Valley. Everyone, pay attention to your surroundings. If anything goes wrong, remember to report it in time." "Captain, if you are here, that blind bandit dares to come." "Yes. Ah, we are the motorcade of the Mori family, plus the captain. If these bandits dare to come, they are simply seeking death." The burly man did not speak, but looked around warily. This time's cargo is extremely important, and it affects the family immediately. Compete with the Loki family for a place to enter the secret realm of the spirit pool. As long as the family wins the place this time, the young master will have the hope of entering the blood abyss spirit pool to temper his body. If he misses this opportunity once in 10 years, I am afraid the young master will not be able to take it. This time, the burly man secretly thought. At this moment, Jason in the crowd frowned suddenly, and the burly man was also surprised on his face, waved his hand, and shouted, "Stop!" Everyone stopped in a hurry, but looked at the empty valley with doubts on their faces, not knowing why. "Haha, Yan Lai is indeed Yan Lai, he really has good eyesight." At this moment, a cold voice came out. The sound of laughter suddenly echoed over the valley. At the same time, on the mountain walls surrounding the crowd, groups of heavily armed thieves suddenly appeared. This is the second update today. The weather is extremely hot. Without air conditioning, there is no electric fan to ride in a place, and it is also an extremely crowded library, like a stove. It is simply a tragedy. The owner of this cold voice was a thin black man with one eye, and the other eye was wrapped tightly in black cloth. He stood on a rock not far away from the mountain col, watching coldly the people below. Haixiazi, what do you mean? Uncle Lai, a burly man in front of the team, looked at the thin black man on the mountain col and shouted with anger on his face. This one-eyed man is the leader of the Black Blind Thieves group, one of the famous thieves groups in Luoyan Valley. His own strength has reached the 5th level of the senior sect spiritual master. What do you mean? Haha, Yan Lai, you are not a newbie anymore, you don't understand what this means? Of course you are looking for some work for the brothers. The thin, black man sneered. This black blind man is really looking for death. Many of the guards in the team were extremely angry. As the guards of the Mori family, one of the 2 major families in Rainbow City, these guards often traveled back and forth between Rainbow City and Magnolia City. Although there are several groups of bandits in Luoyan Valley, but as long as they show the banner of the Mori family in Rainbow City, no bandit dares to attack them. Unexpectedly, this time, this black and blind bandit group dares to stop them. The way to go. Black blind man, get out of the way, quickly. Our Mori family will not hold you accountable for your recklessness. Otherwise, don't blame me, Yan Lai, for being rude. Uncle Lai, a burly man, spoke calmly. He was extremely angry in his heart, but this time the young master was in the convoy, but he was not allowed to act recklessly. Get out of the way. Haha. The lean man couldn't help laughing. Yan Lai, I respect you as a person. I didn't expect you to be so ignorant of the rules. It's not easy for brothers to come out. I am the boss. Yes, we can't let them go back empty-handed and hungry. The face of Uncle Lai, a burly and strong man, changed slightly. I don't know what he was thinking. After a while, he snorted coldly and said, okay, in that case, I have 10,000 spirit coins here, which I can use as tea for your brothers. Yan Lai took out a spirit card from his body, and then threw it at the black blind man on the mountain kernel. A strong wind sounded, and the silver spirit card made a sound of breaking through the air, and was struck by the one-eyed man. He took it in his hand. Captain. Seeing that Yan Lai actually gave the black blind man property, several guards suddenly said with confusion and anxiety on their faces. Yan Lai waved his hand to stop them from talking. Haixiazi, you can always get out of the way now, right? Yan Lai said calmly, not bad, not bad. It seems that you don't understand the rules, Yan Lai. A satisfied smile appeared on Haixiazi's face. I'll accept this 10,000 spirits coin first, but this little money is only enough for our brother to make a tooth sacrifice, so I can't get out of the way. Black blind man, what do you want? Yan Lai's face changed and he shouted angrily. In terms of strength, as a 5th level senior sect spiritual master, he has no fear of the black blind man who is also a senior sect spiritual master. However, the young master is also in the team this time, and the goods this time are extremely critical, and he cannot be tolerated at all. Accident. However, Yan Lai was also extremely confused in his heart. This group of black and blind thieves had never dared to attack the Mori family in the past. How could they be so bold this time? What do I want? Black blind man sneered twice, leave all the goods in your convoy, and I will spare your lives. Otherwise, you will never leave this place. Black blind man, you are looking for death. Hearing black blind man's words after making the request, Yan Lai became completely furious. At the same time, the team behind him slowly shrank in the process, forming a defensive circle. Haha, are you looking for death? The lean one-eyed man couldn't help but laugh. Let's see who is looking for death. After finishing speaking, a loud shout suddenly came from his mouth. Brother madman, don't come out yet. Come out, the rumbling voice echoed in the valley. Below, the faces of Yan Lai and others changed. Haha, Haixiazi, why are you so anxious? In the mountain call not far away, once again a large number of people appeared, led by two burly men, 2 meters tall, carrying 2 giant axes in their hands, flying from a distance with extremely dexterity. Violent, violent. Yan Lai said with a solemn expression on his face, but his expression was rarely worried. He turned to the many guards and shouted, "Quick, all the teams gather together and form a circle. Circle, prepare to fight, young master, go back to the carriage and never come out." The 2 leaders of the Luoyan Valley Madman Thieves group are fierce and powerful. Although these 2 people only have the strength of 5th level intermediate sect spiritual masters, but when 2 people with a set of double spiritual skills join forces, they are no weaker than a 5th level senior spiritual master. Seeing that the 2 most famous thieves groups in Luoyan Valley actually joined forces to intercept him, Yan Lai knew in his heart that this was definitely not a whim of the 2 thieves groups. There was definitely someone who wanted to kill the Mori family. He didn't want these groups to do so. The goods were returned to Tianhong City. Otherwise, with the strength of these 2 thieves, even if they borrowed 2 more courages, they would not dare to touch the beard of the tiger of the Mori family. Under Yan Lai's order, all the members of the Mori family, the guards, brought the carriage together with solemn expressions on their faces, and then drew out their weapons with a murderous look on their faces. "Everyone, come on." On the mountain call, a lean man with one eye stared at the valley. The team in the middle waved their hands, and countless thieves rushed towards the team of Jason and others from all directions. For a moment, the cry of killing rumbled throughout the valley. The expressions of all the guards changed instantly. There were thousands of thieves all over the mountains and plains. Although most of them were not strong, there were some masters among them. However, my team only had a total of 150. Many people, such a disparity in the number of people is really too big. Everyone has their eyes on Yan Lai in front of the team. Now the hope of the entire team lies in the captain. If the captain can put that the Black Blind Man and the Madman Brother were defeated, so everyone still had a glimmer of hope, otherwise, but the Black Blind Man among the opponents was a master at the same level as the captain, and the Madman Brother was also well known. It is said that 2 fists are difficult to beat with 4 hands. Will the captain alone be the opponent of these 3 people? Xian Xian's heart was heavy. "Master, get into the carriage. Quickly." Someone among the guards spoke to Loken, and then said to Jason next to Loken, "Boy, you should hide quickly. We won't have time to take care of you when the battle comes, so just take care of yourself." "I want to chariot with everyone," Loken said stubbornly, but Jason turned around and got into a carriage. This kid. Khan couldn't help but have a trace of disdain in his eyes. Although they all knew that Jason was injured and it was impossible to fight, the speed of Jason's cowardly getting into the carriage still made them, the guards who licked blood with their swords, couldn't help but feel contempt in their hearts. At this moment, one by one, "Haha, Yan Lai, let me come and meet you." In the distance, the Black Blind Man suddenly flew up to a height of more than 10 meters, and the long knife in his hand suddenly lit up. The golden light, the whole person is like a golden stream of light, and it is aimed at Yan Lai with a huge force and strikes hard. Yan Lai also grabbed the giant sword and flew up from his horse. The flames on the giant sword in his hand quickly rose up, and he faced the blind man. Pung! There was a dull sound of weapons clashing, and both of them flew back a dozen steps. "Haixiazi, have you reached the peak of the 5th level?" Yan Lai looked at the one-eyed lean man in surprise, with a solemn look on his face. As a fire-type spiritual master, Yan Lai already suppressed the opponent's metal type in terms of spiritual power. In the previous head-on confrontation, he should obviously have the advantage with heavy weapons, but in the end, he and the opponent were evenly matched. "Get up, haha, yes, I am only 1 step away from the 6th level spiritual master now. As long as I kill you, I think I may be able to break through, haha." The lean man's face was full of smiles. It's pride. "Black Blind Man, why are you talking nonsense to him? Don't forget the mission. Not far away, the Quangren brothers also rushed over and shouted to the black blind man. Then, Quang Meng and Quang Chong suddenly lit up with a misty yellow light, and the giant axe in their hands instantly swung into phantoms. Yan Lai struck fiercely and came. As the two of them ran, there was a unique connection between the spiritual powers on their bodies. They flowed between each other, and their momentum continued to increase. Flywheel dual axes. Quang Meng and Quang Chong suddenly jumped up. The giant axes in their hands seemed to be combined together in an instant, and then they aimed at Yan Lai and struck fiercely. Get up! There seemed to be flames burning in Yan Li's eyes, and he thrust the giant sword into the sky and raised it high. Boom! Amid the huge roar, the rock formations under Yan Li's feet exploded instantly, and the whole person fell into the ground, with a muffled sound coming from his mouth. And the madman brother also fell heavily on the ground, stepped back a few steps, and with each step, a deep footprint was left on the rocky ground. Whoops! At this moment, a golden sword light cut through the space like a rainbow, and suddenly came to Yan Li's chest. Yan Lai had a look of shock on his face, ignoring the boiling spiritual power in his body that could not be suppressed. The giant sword in his hand quickly slipped down and was blocked in front of his chest. Wrong. Pfft. Yan Lai's body that had sunk into the ground was thrown out heavily by this blow. The giant sword in his hand trembled, and he almost wanted to get out. The violent spiritual power shock caused his body to suffer instantly. He suffered a lot of injuries. Black blind man, brother madman, we are a team of the Mori family, don't you want your life? Yan Lai roared. The Mori family? Huh, someone will wipe our butts for us. Besides, as long as we kill all of you, who will know that it was us? The black blind man had a sneer on his face. Die. The black blind man's eyes flashed fiercely, and he aimed the long knife in his hand at Yan Lai. At the same time, the madman brothers, who had taken a short rest, once again rushed up with their double axes. The team is coming, Uncle Lai in the convoy, all the guards and Lokand shouted. However, they were entangled by many thieves, and no one could come forward to help. In fact, even if they could free their hands, with their strength, they can't help Yan Lai at all. Buzz. At this moment, a strong wave of spiritual power suddenly floated in the world and enveloped everyone in the convoy. What? Such a powerful spiritual power fluctuation, this is, an indescribable pressure of spiritual power instantly pressed on everyone, and everyone's face turned pale with shock. This is an indescribable feeling, in this spiritual power under the fluctuation, the spiritual energy elements in the entire space seemed to be drained out in an instant. Everyone felt like they were trapped in an endless quagmire, and their movements became extremely difficult. All the thieves felt that they were separated from the world. The spiritual elements in their bodies have lost their sensitivity, and they can only mobilize the spiritual power in their bodies crazily. However, as soon as the spiritual power in their bodies is released, they are subjected to endless oppression. Especially Heishi Yao, who is a metal spiritual master, the originally golden long sword dimmed quickly, and he felt that the golden spiritual power in his body was out of control. Hixie Azizi and others were shocked, and regardless of their awkward movements, they suddenly stopped attacking, and then they backed away crazily. Their faces were full of surprise and suspicion, their eyes roamed around the mountains and forests, and then looked back and forth among the people in the convoy, but they could not find anything suspicious. However, this wave, almost the breathless spiritual pressure, still shrouded the entire convoy without weakening at all. Yan Lai and others also looked around in shock, but their faces were more excited meaning, this mysterious man took action at this time, obviously to rescue them. I wonder which expert is here. Hey Shazi, please forgive me if I have offended you in any way. However, today's matter is between our Black Blind Thieves group and Madman Thieves group and the Mori family. Please don't interfere. Hey Shazi was surprised. He looked around, clasping his fists and taking action. Don't do it yet. Suddenly, a slightly low voice suddenly sounded in the valley, rumbling down in the valley as if coming from the sky. Although the voice was not loud, it was combined with this extremely terrifying spirit. The force and pressure made everyone's hearts beat. Do it? What do you mean? The thieves were all a little confused. However, the Mori family guards were extremely excited. When the spiritual pressure suddenly came down, they also felt a little uncomfortable. However, at this moment, the spiritual pressure is still there, and the spiritual elements between heaven and earth are still unable to. I noticed that the spiritual power in their bodies was flowing smoothly without any hindrance. Haha, Black Blind Man, suffered death. Yen Lai, who took advantage of this gap to calm down his injured body, shouted loudly. With ecstasy in his heart, he aimed at Black Blind Man and shot fiercely, with the flames of the giant sword in his hand. The burning did not weaken at all under the pressure of the spiritual power. Escape. The Black Blind Man wanted to mobilize his spiritual power, but found it extremely difficult, so he had to turn around and try to retreat. At this moment, an invisible wave suddenly appeared out of nowhere and swept into the Black Blind Man's body like lightning. The Black Blind Man's flying body suddenly stopped, his eyes dull. Here. Yen Lai's giant sword, which contained powerful fire spiritual power, struck the Black Blind Man's stopped body without hesitation, splitting the Black Blind Man's body in two from the waist. Countless blood and large intestines spurted out from the Black Blind Man's severed body, splashing onto the rocky ground, staining the ground red. Ah! The blind man's shrill scream suddenly rang out in the valley. His waist was cut off and he couldn't breathe for a moment. He was rolling on the ground in pain, his face extremely terrifying. On the side, the faces of the two madman brothers suddenly turned extremely pale. Senior, it was the Loki family who asked us to intercept Yen Lai and the others here. They don't care about our affairs, the madman brothers shouted. They thought it was a master from the Mori family who wanted to exchange for this. A glimmer of hope. However, except for the screams of the Black Blind Man in the entire valley, no one responded at all. The Loki family Yen Lai's eyes were blazing with rage, and the giant sword in his hand slashed down without hesitation. The two madman brothers gritted their teeth and raised the giant axe in their hands like lightning, trying to resist. Another invisible wave suddenly appeared in the valley and sank directly into the bodies of the two people side by side. The eyes of the two people were dull for a moment, without any thought. Puff, puff, two muffled sounds rang in everyone's ears. The heads of the two madman brothers exploded like rotten watermelons, and their red and white brains sprayed all over the ground, which looked particularly terrifying and bloody. Everyone was staring blankly at Yen Lai not far away. He had been beaten by the two brothers Black Blind Man and Quoran earlier and was unable to withstand it. Under the pressure of this spiritual power, he instantly killed the three Black Blind Man brothers. People are just like chopping vegetables and melons, there is no difficulty at all. Such a scene immediately made everyone stunned. Run away, the leader has been lost. The thieves who had surrounded and attacked the convoy had already been frightened out of their wits and fled frantically around the valley. Kill them. With anger on their faces, the guards of the Mori family chased the bandits. In an instant, dozens of them lost their will to fight, and they only knew that the bandits who were running away like mad were dead. Under the sword of these guards, the remaining bandits retreated crazily into the forest. The guards did not pursue him, but only chased him for 100 meters before retreating. After all, their mission was to protect the convoy and the young master. The valley, which was filled with murderous auras and filled with people before, was now completely empty. Haha, robbers are robbers. They are just a bunch of rabble, but they can escape very quickly. They seem to be very experienced, someone in the crowd said something. Haha, everyone laughed, with a sense of relief in the laughter, a joyful feeling of surviving a disaster. Unknowingly, the previous spiritual pressure had disappeared from everyone's perception, as if it had never appeared. Yen Lai gasped for breath, and then looked around the valley. After finding nothing, he clasped his fists at the sky and said, "Junior Yan Lai of the Mori family, thank you for your help today. I wonder if you can come out and see me? So that the juniors can remember the seniors in their hearts." All the guards stopped talking and looked up at the sky, and Loken's eyes were filled with incomparable excitement and curiosity. However, after Yan Lai and others waited for a long time, the entire valley was still silent without any sound. Yan Lai said again, "Since the senior does not want to appear, the junior does not dare to force it. If the senior needs anything in the future, he can come to the Moli family in Tianhong City. Your life-saving grace will be unforgettable." By the Moli family feeling the silence all around, Yan Lai could only sigh regretfully and ordered to the surroundings, "Everyone needs to take a rest, let's continue our journey." The previous battle was extremely short. Except for a few injured people in the entire team, there were no casualties at all. In fact, the people who fought against the guards before were only some fast-running bandits. Most of the bandits had not even arrived at the convoy. Middle. While everyone was checking with lingering fear, in a carriage in the middle of the motorcade, Jason pulled down the curtain at a corner, his face a little pale. The body has just been healed and the elemental barrier of the 4th level spiritual ring has been released. It is still a bit difficult, Jason couldn't help but murmur in his heart. Although Jason's internal injuries have basically healed during these 2 days of training, he still finds it difficult to accurately control the elemental barrier. A moment later, the convoy set off again with a creaking sound. However, after the previous incident, no one in the convoy dared to relax at all. "Uncle Lai, what happened earlier?" Outside the team, the guards were all talking. "Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I just feel like all the spiritual elements in the world have disappeared. Yeah, the pressure of that spiritual power is really terrifying. What kind of master would it take to release it? Come out, it's not just you, it's the same for us. Haven't you seen that the 2 brothers, the black blind man and the Quanmon, were dumbfounded at this point?" All the guards couldn't help laughing. "Laugh it out. Honestly, that mysterious senior is really powerful." The 3 of them, black blind man, who were extremely powerful before, were killed one by one by the captain's sword under the pressure of that spiritual power. Hearing what the guard next to him said. During the discussion, Luoquan, who came to Yan Lai, had his eyes shining and said excitedly, "Uncle Lai, how powerful is the senior who didn't show up before?" Everyone focused on Yan Lai. "On the body. Awesome?" Yan Lai shook his head, "I don't know. I guess he must be a 7th level Imperial Spiritual Master." A 7th level Imperial Spiritual Master. Everyone was too scared to speak. Although there are several 7th level Imperial Spiritual Masters in Chi'er Province, to these guards, the 7th level Imperial Spiritual Masters are already legendary existences. "Uncle Lai, why would such a master save us? Who knows, maybe he is in a good mood, maybe he has some connection with our Mori family, or maybe the senior can't stand these bandits' behavior. For these masters, sometimes there is no need for a reason to do things, they are all done casually." Uncle Lai also sighed in his heart, if the mysterious master hadn't come to the rescue this time, their team would probably. He was about to be defeated in Luoyan Valley, but the information revealed by the 2 madman brothers also filled Yan Lai's heart with gloom. In order to stop them, the Loki family actually colluded with the bandits from Luoyan Valley in order to make their operation fail. It seems that the Loki family will use any means to get a quota in the secret realm of the spirit pool. "Come out. Such a major matter must be reported to the head of the family." After returning to the family in the carriage, Jason couldn't help but smile bitterly as he listened to the discussions of the guards. Fortunately, he didn't show up. These guys actually thought he was a 7th level Imperial Spiritual Master. If they knew it was him, he was a young man, I'm afraid everyone will be dumbfounded. In fact, this is because Yan Lai is not very knowledgeable. If Yan Lai knew that the 4th level spirit ring used by Jason was an elemental barrier, he would probably describe Jason, the mysterious master, as an 8th level emperor spirit master. As Jason sighed secretly, the car curtain was suddenly opened, and Loken walked in from the outside. In his hand, he also held a water bag and some dry food and dried meat. Seeing Jason's somewhat pale face, Loken couldn't help but laugh, threw the water bag into Jason's hand, and said, "No way, you dare to wander outside alone, and dare to be in the mountains and forests late at night. Why are you so timid when you encounter bandits while camping?" He didn't think anything about Jason getting into the carriage quickly. In fact, he was scared to death at the time, but his family's sense of honor prevented him from running away. Instead, he suppressed his fear and stayed with the guards. Jason took the water bag and took a sip. A pungent liquid immediately entered his throat. The water bag was filled with strong alcohol. "Haha, this wine is for you to calm down. I drank it secretly. Uncle Lai and the others didn't let me drink, so I poured some into my water bag. Haha, you must not tell them, otherwise I won't drink anymore." Seeing Jason's expression, Loken couldn't help but laugh again. Little did Loken know that the moment he brought the water dung in, Jason's keen nose had already tasted the faint smell of alcohol outside the water bag. "Come, eat some dry food. Uncle Lai said that we won't take a break at noon after a while. We will wait until we leave Luoyuan Valley in the afternoon. Let's treat these dry food as lunch, and everyone eats them right away." In front of Jason, Loken always felt a sense of helpfulness, which made him feel very happy. Jason didn't waste his time. He directly picked up those things and started begging. "Brother Jesse, speaking of which, we were quite lucky this time. If it hadn't been for that mysterious senior, I'm afraid our team would have been in trouble this time. Hey, you didn't see it just now. Those bandits were so frightened that their faces turned pale. The Black Blind Man and the Madman brothers were extremely arrogant at first. But in the end they were killed instantly by Uncle Lai's sword. Tsk, tisk. Luo. Kuan said with excitement on his face. On his face, Jason could not see much nervousness, but more excitement. "I heard from Uncle Lai that the mysterious senior is very likely to he is a 7th level Imperial Spiritual Master, a 7th level Imperial Spiritual Master." Luoquan's eyes were full of admiration, but after a moment, Luoquan's face dimmed. "Jack brother, see, I'm not afraid of your jokes. In fact, I also want to become a master of the Imperial Spiritual Master. I want to see my father and the others happy, but I'm afraid there is no hope." This was the first time Jason saw such a depressed side from this lively young man. He thought aloud and said, "Loken, you don't have to be discouraged. I believe you can do it as long as you work hard. You can do it now." At only 18 years old, he has reached the 4th level of low-level Heavenly Spiritual Master and the 7th level of Imperial Spiritual Master. That is full of hope. Loken shook his head and said, "Brother Jace, you don't know my body, alas, father and the others have exhausted all the family's belongings for me, and this time they bought such I have many elixir ingredients in order to compete with the Loki family for a place in the secret realm of the spirit pool. I hope I can have the opportunity to enter the Blood Abyss spirit pool to change my physique, but I am really unhappy. I don't want my father and the others to pay so much for me." Secret realm of spiritual pond, Blood Abyss spiritual pond? What is that? After Jason heard Loken's whisper, he was stunned. He keenly felt that this Blood Abyss spirit pool seemed to have some kind of connection with the Blood Abyss spirit that he was searching for. Luoquan also recovered from his depression at this time and said, "Brother Jess, this secret realm of Lingqi is a place deep in the Lingqi mountains of Archeer province. It is extremely dangerous, and this Blood Abyss, the spiritual pool, is the deepest spiritual pool in the secret realm of the spiritual pool. It is said that as long as you soak in this Blood Abyss spiritual pool, the spiritual master's body will be washed and marrowed, his vitality will be greatly increased, and his physical strength will be greatly improved. With the improvement, some spiritual masters will even break through directly in the Blood Abyss spiritual pool. It's just that this secret realm of the spiritual pool is extremely weird. The entrance is only opened every 10 years. Every time, fill from Cheer province, the family will give each city in the province a family quota. This time, the secret realm of Lingqi will be opened soon. The Loki family fought against our family just to get a quota to enter the secret realm of Lingqi. This is the secret realm of the spirit pond, Jason said to Lokuan. Is there a red, polygonal spar in the secret realm of the spirit pond? Red spar? Luoquan frowned. I don't know about this. I have never entered the secret realm of the spiritual pool, but I heard that the Blood Abyss spiritual pool is located on a red crystal mountain in the secret realm of the spiritual pool. Hearing Luoquan's description, finally, Jason couldn't help but feel excited. He was almost certain that this secret realm of the spirit pool should be the birthplace of the Blood Abyss essence. Jason, who was dedicated to searching for the Blood Abyss essence, finally got the news about the Blood Abyss essence. Naturally, the joy in his heart was indescribable. This blood essence. He must get it, but the quota for entering the secret realm of the spirit pool that Loken said can only be determined by the situation at that time. But before that, Jason wanted to know what kind of physical illness this Loken had. If possible, Jason wouldn't mind treating him. With Jason's current knowledge of elixirs, as long as it wasn't those, he can cure even the truly heaven-defying terminal diseases. Lokuan, if you don't mind, let me check your body. Jason said solemnly. Luoquan couldn't help being stunned, and then he couldn't help laughing. Brother Jess, don't tell me that you are actually an elixir, and you want to see a doctor for me. Haha, my father found it for me. Several elixir masters have treated me, and I also had a 5th-level senior elixir master prepare a lot of physical and spiritual elixirs for me. The most conservative one among these masters said that I would not live to be 30. Brother Jace, I appreciate your kindness. Luoquan didn't think that someone could cure his disease, but looking at Jason's young appearance, Luoquan didn't think that Jason would be able to cure himself. Even the 5th-level elixir masters can't do anything about this disease. A young man like Jason. Okay, Brother Jesse, you can have a good rest. I won't disturb you anymore. Luoquan smiled, opened the curtain and walked out, leaving only Jason in the carriage. Looking at Luoquan's back, Jason couldn't help but touch his nose in embarrassment. In his previous life, countless masters were extremely excited because Jason examined and treated him. Now he wants to give Luoquan checked and was actually rejected by Noloku. This made Jason smile speechlessly in his heart. If the 9th-level Holy Spirit masters in the previous life knew about it, they would probably go crazy and want to use everything. Let's exchange for such a spot with Narakan. Let's find another opportunity next time. Jason secretly thought in his heart, if it hadn't been for Luoquan today, he wouldn't have been able to find out anything about the Blood Abyss spiritual pool. Although the senior leaders of the Mori family like Yen Lai must also know about the secret realm of the spiritual pool, it was impossible to tell Jason, an outsider, about his determination. After continuously rushing, the team had left the notorious Luoyuan Valley by the evening, but along the way, they did not encounter any other thieves, which made Yen Lai and the others, who were frightened and extremely vigilant, let out a long breath. As long as they leave Luoyuan Valley, the next journey is a flat road. In the next few days, the team walked very comfortably and never encountered any trouble. During the past few days of traveling, Hongqing was also on that day. Getting closer. In the past few days, after recuperating and adjusting his breath, Jason finally fully recovered his body. In a few days, he recovered from a person on the verge of death. With such a powerful recovery ability, even an 8th level, even the Emperor Spiritual Master would be dumbfounded, and only Jason could do it. However, Jason behaved extremely low-key. At most he was just walking back and forth in the convoy, or riding a horse. The fluctuations in his spiritual power were also restrained by him, and did not show much difference. Therefore, everyone was just surprised that Jason was so fast. I was a little surprised to be able to move without any hindrance, but I wasn't really surprised at all. The sun was shining brightly, the warm breeze was blowing, and the blue waves were like mirrors in the cloudless sky, giving people a feeling of being extremely open and comfortable. On the official road, not far outside Tianhong City, a motorcade was slowly advancing, bringing up clouds of smoke and dust. It was the Mori family motorcade that Jason was in. As Tianhong City got closer and closer, everyone was in a cheerful mood. After such a trip, it is impossible for everyone to go on any missions in the near future. They have enough time to spend time with their families in the city. Captain, we will be able to return to Rainbow City this evening. Ugh, I feel a little homesick after going out like this. A guard in the crowd said. Haha, third child, I think you are not homesick, but your mother-in-law. Another guard laughed loudly. Haha. Ha ha ha. His teasing immediately caused bursts of cheerful laughter from the entire team. Everyone, please pay attention. We are about to arrive at Rainbow City. Everyone should be on alert. The leader, Uncle Lai, frowned and shouted when he saw the people who were somewhat relaxed. Captain, we are almost arriving at Rainbow City. Is everything going to be okay? A guard said, but after all, when the burly and strong man Uncle Lai said this, everyone cheered up and paid close attention. Be alert. Whoops. At this moment, a black shadow suddenly flew out from the mountains and forests in front, blocking the team in an instant. At the same time, dozens of black figures also shot out from the mountains and forests, blocking the way. In front of Uncle Lai and others. The leader was a black-haired old man wearing a fiery red robe. He stood in the middle of the road holding a sharp sword. His hooked nose looked particularly eye-catching. Coburn. Seeing this man, the faces of Yan Lai and other Mori family guards couldn't help but change. This man is the elder of the Loki family in Rainbow City, Coburn, who is a 6th-level low-level spiritual master. Kindness. What is this old guy doing here? Yan Lai felt a slight shiver in his heart. The sudden appearance of Old Burn made his heart suddenly lift. Haha, everyone in the Mori family, stay safe. Cockburn looked at the Yan Lai in front of the team and laughed lightly. Elder Cockburn, I wonder what you mean by stopping the team of our Mori family. Yan Lai said with a cold face. Uncle Lai, what's going on? At this moment, Luo Kuan, who was behind the team before, also came forward. This should be Master Luo Kuan. I heard that the young man was promoted to the 4th level of low-level Heavenly Spirit Master at a young age. It's really gratifying. Congratulations, it seems that we will have another top powerhouse in Rainbow City soon. Cockburn looked at Luo Kuan, with a secret smile on his face. Everyone present had a smile on his face. After sinking, almost everyone in Hongqing knew about young Master Loken's illness. What Cockburn said was clearly a joke on the young master. Elder Cockburn, if it's nothing, please give me a try. Please move out of the way, our clan leader is still waiting in Tianhong City. There is something wrong, how can it be okay? Cockburn took 2 steps and said calmly, I heard that your Mori family smuggled a batch of illegal materials to Tianhong City. As a member of Tianhong City, our Loki family naturally, the family in charge of the city cannot allow this to happen, so Captain Yan Lai, please keep these carriages. After our Loki family has inspected them, we will naturally return these carriages to your Mori family. Calvin, what do you mean? Yan Lai shouted angrily, but his heart gradually sank. The so-called evil Comer, this elder Coburn's strength has reached the 6th level of a low-level spiritual master, far above me, with so many elite and powerful people behind me. Today, I'm afraid it's really doomed. What do you mean? Yan Lai, get out of here. Cockburn changed his previous smile and looked at the people behind Yan Lai with a ferocious look on his face. As long as you will keep these carriages obediently, I, Cockburn, don't want to do anything, otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. As Coburn's words fell, the dozens of elite members of the Loki family behind him all with a swipe, he took out the weapon from his waist and looked at everyone in the Mori family murderously. I heard that the Mori family has purchased a large amount of elixir materials, and wants to let Locke break through to the 5th level of Advanced Elixir Master so that he can win the place in the secret realm of the Spirit Pool this time. It is simply a fantasy and a fool's dream. Now that I have withheld all these elixir ingredients, the Mori family will just wait to cry. Cockburn looked at Yan Lai and the others and couldn't help but sneer in his heart. In the carriage, Jason frowned slightly. The people on both sides were obviously out of contrast. On this side of the Mori family, except for Yan Lai, who is a 5th-level senior sect spirit except for masters, most of the more than 100 people are at the level of 4th-level heavenly spiritual masters, and some are still only 3rd-level advanced spiritual masters. And what about over there? The strongest member of the Loki family's team, Cockburn, is a 6th-level low-level spiritual master. Not to mention the dozens of elites behind him, Cockburn alone is enough to sweep the entire team of the Mori family. Team up. We are in big trouble. Uncle Lai, a burly and strong man, was anxious. In terms of strength, he was no match for Cockburn and the others, but these materials were high-end materials that the family had spent all their financial resources to purchase. They were just for convenience. It is to allow Master Locke to break through to the 5th level of Advanced Elixir Master. If it is taken away by the Loki family, then his family will be completely out of the fight for the secret realm this time. Captain, what should I do? Captain, even if you die, you can't leave these carriages behind. There were a lot of angry shouts in the team, and everyone took out the weapons from their waists and looked at the opposite side with blazing eyes. If you don't eat the toast, you will be punished with a drink. If this is the case, don't blame me for being rude. A trace of a sinister smile appeared on Cockburn's face. Whoosh! After the words fell, Cockburn's whole body instantly turned into a fiery red afterimage, and the thin sword in his hand shook, and dozens of gorgeous flames instantly transformed. Flowers shrouded the flames in front of the team. Yan Lai's face instantly turned extremely red under the light of the flames, and then the giant sword in his hand suddenly flew up, and powerful fire power spurted out from his body instantly. Boom! In an instant, strong flame energy spread out within a radius of several feet. The guards around Yan Lai all retreated in fear, and Yan Lai even let out a muffled groan and shouted towards him. After that, he took 10 steps back. His face turned red at first, and then turned completely pale again. Uncle Lai. Captain. There were bursts of exclamations from the crowd. Haha, Yan Lai, just lie aside and lie down obediently. A loud shout came from Cockburn's mouth, and then, a fiery red figure was like a meteor streaking across the sky, aiming at Yan Lai Kwang. Sweep away. Cockburn descended from the sky like a flaming war god, with an extremely powerful momentum, aiming at the flames and shrouding it. The strong momentum surged in all directions, making people almost suffocated. Feeling the surging fire spiritual power, Yan Lai had a wry smile on his face. Facing Cockburn, a 6th-level spiritual master, he was a 5th-level sect, and he had no ability to compete. All the guards of the Mori family, including Loken, turned pale at this moment. Just when Cockburn's attack was about to be shot down, whoops! A sharp whine through the air suddenly sounded in everyone's ears, and then, a black stream of light flew out from behind the team like lightning, and arrived in front of Cockburn in an instant. Who? Cockburn shouted angrily, and slashed down with the thin sword in his hand. Boom! Strong energy surged in all directions. Cockburn only felt an extremely powerful force suddenly transmitted from the black stream of light. His whole body suddenly fell backwards, and he retreated one after another. After a few steps, he was breathing heavily and his face was red and white. Wrong. The black stream of light also fell downwards under Cockburn's attack, diagonally inserted into the ground, and turned out to be a huge black sword. This black ape is not that in the crowd, Loken said with surprise on his face, and then looked back suddenly. At the same time, everyone present also followed Loken. His eyes looked towards the back of the Mori family team. Pa, slight footsteps sounded behind everyone. In everyone's sight, a young man they saw every day was walking towards everyone. Jace? Seeing Jace's appearance, Yan Lai and others were slightly startled, and then they suddenly seemed to understand something, and shock and disbelief quickly filled their eyes. With a hint of helplessness on Jason's face, he said to Yan Lai, are you okay? Yan Lai was a little confused for a moment. Jason shook his head, and then came in front of everyone, gently pulled out the black heavy sword inserted into the ground, smiled at Luoquan behind him and said, don't worry, just leave it to me to stab you. Not far away, Cockburn looked at Jason, who looked indifferent. He suppressed the anger in his heart and said, Your Excellency, you should not be from the Mori family. This is our Loki family and Mori. It's better for you not to meddle in the affairs of the two families, so as not to get into trouble. Oh, really? Jason's face was full of indifference, and he looked at him like he was shooing away flies. He asked Cockburn and others, and said indifferently, Go away, or I will take your life. Cockburn was furious, with a hint of malice in his eyes, and then sneered. He said, Boy, don't get involved in your own business. From the fluctuations of spiritual power in Jason's body, he felt that Jason was only a fourth-level heavenly spiritual master, although he had been killed by Jason before. The heavy sword knocked him back, but in Coburn's mind, he thought it was Jason's sudden sneak attack that left him with no time to react. In that case, Jason shook his head. Not wanting to talk nonsense with the other party, he suddenly disappeared from the spot. Whoosh, the powerful spiritual power erupted from the spiritual god Art, turned his body into a black afterimage, and quickly came to Cockburn. Young man is looking for death. Cockburn said with a sinister look on his face, and spoke ferociously. The fiery red spiritual power was like a rising fire dragon, trapping Coburn's whole body inside, and an extremely powerful force. The power quickly appeared in everyone's perception. Facing the strange Jason, Cockburn used his strongest power in an instant. Is this the pressure of a sixth-level spiritual master? The powerful power caused the faces of everyone present to change color. Buzz. Jason's expression was full of indifference, a strange light flashed from his eyes, and the powerful soul power instantly turned into a cone and shot into Coburn's body in front of him. Coburn's eyes, which were full of anger before, were dull, and the rising flames on his body were quickly extinguished. Rose life strike. Jason shouted softly in his heart, and the black épée in his hand hit Cockburn hard. Coburn's eyes suddenly regained their clarity, but the moment they recovered, he was horrified to see the enlarging dark sword body. Bang! Cockburn, who didn't have time to react, was like a kite with broken strings. He was blown away heavily. The strong spiritual power instantly tore Coburn's robe to pieces, and the blood was like a rain of blood. It fell from the sky and scattered all over the ground. Bang! Cockburn fell heavily to the ground not far away like a rag bag, motionless and unaware of life or death. Whether it was the dozens of elite spiritual masters from the Loki family or the guards of the Loki family, Bu, Yan Lai, Luo Kun and others all looked at this scene with their mouths open. Then Cockburn is dead. What to do with the remaining people is left to you. Jason inserted the black heavy sword into the scabbard behind his back and said calmly to the burly man Yan Lai. In the mountain forests on both sides of the Lokuan official road, the sunlight refracted through the leaves blown by the wind, making the faces of Yan Lai and others bright and dark, and the bloody smell of bloody killings was still there. It was permeating the air, but Yan Lai and others, who were still in great danger just now, stared blankly at Cockburn, who was lying motionless on the ground like a rag bag, and then looked at Jason, who was carrying a black heavy sword on his back. A sixth-level low-level spiritual master was actually defeated with a sword, and he was lying there with his life and death unknown. It's unbelievable that everyone's hearts were aroused, and the eyes looking at Jason became different, full of awe and admiration. Then what happened to Cockburn earlier? He stood there motionless? He let the black-haired boy strike with his long sword. One of the guards said in a daze. Shut up. Uncle Lai, a burly man, shouted angrily. At this time, he finally understood that when he killed the black blind man and the madman brother, the black blind man and the madman brother were all stunned and allowed to be slaughtered by him. It's all the result of others on the sidelines. I'm so stupid, so stupid. Uncle Lai, a burly man, was trembling slightly. It's the first time I saw this young man. He was not affected by the battle of the Emperor Spirit Master. Maybe he was involved. One person. Even Cockburn, the 6th-level low-level spiritual master, was defeated instantly before he could even fight back. It was purely because of our stupidity. When we went to Luoyuan Valley before, there were no mysterious masters at all. It was just the Jace gang. We, the ones who calmly let me kill the Black Blind Man and the Madman brothers, are called masters, super masters. Everyone listen to the order and kill. Arrest all the members of the Loki family. Anyone who violates the rules will be killed. But at this time, Yen Lai also knew that it was not the time for him to be stunned. After recovering from the surprise, he roared. He made a sound, waving the weapon in his hand and charging forward. Killing all the members of the Mori family woke up one after another, roaring crazily, as if they wanted to completely release their previous fear. The appearance of Cockburn previously made them all terrified, but the sudden appearance of Jason made them feel as if they had gone from hell to heaven. This strong contrast in mood made them want to vent. For a moment, the entire official road was filled with shouts of killing, but a moment later, surrender, I surrender. Surrender, we surrender. There was no need for Yen Lai and the others to attack more. Luo, who was still majestic before, more than 50 members of the Ji family surrendered, but even though the guards of the Mori family did not kill them, they were still unavoidable. For members of their family, if they fight head-on, there is only a dead end. Didn't you see that even Elder Cockburn was defeated by the opponent's young man with one move? And if they surrender, the family will never turn a blind eye to them, but can get a chance of survival. Moreover, in the previous battle, a few people on their side escaped. I think the clan leader and the others will be able to defeat them soon. Get the news and come to the rescue. Soon, on the official road that was still filled with murderous intent and the sound of fighting, only the painful wails of the members of the Loki family were left. On the side of the Mori family, Loken looked at Jason with fiery and somewhat crazy eyes. Luo Kuan never thought that a young man he saved casually with a good heart would be so powerful that he could defeat Elder Cockburn, a 6th-level low-level spiritual master, with one move. Even his father, a member of the Mori family, the clan leader, probably doesn't have this strength either. At this moment, he had no other thoughts in his mind. What he did have was incomparable excitement. Luoquan was a little nervous and apprehensive about the excitement of meeting the legendary idol, but he still gritted his teeth and walked towards Jason.